Hey everyone, it's Ed with Slow Car Fix, and today I'm working on my 55 Chevy. I'm going to be working on aligning the trunk and fixing the trunk gaps in a way that the internet hates. Alright, so I've been busy on the 55 Chevy. I haven't been recording much video on it, but I've been working on it. For those of you that have been following me on Instagram and Facebook, you'll know that I've been gapping the passenger door. Let me show you what I've been up to. As I mentioned, if you're not already following me on Instagram and Facebook, find me there, Slow Car Fix. This is what I've been up to. The reason I haven't been recording it is because it's kind of controversial, apparently. I thought this was an old school trick that lots of people, custom shops do, and I think it is, but maybe not everybody recognizes that. So when I started doing a video on this before on a previous driver store, it wasn't very well received. Well, it depends on how you look at it, I guess. There was controversy, and maybe that's good for YouTube, but I don't really care for it. So anyways, I just worked away on it and didn't bother recording anything. But if you'll look, my gaps are pretty good. All the way along, across the roof, down the pillar. On four-door conversions, this is always an area of trouble because for whatever reason, the door always fits tight to the pillar. So what I've done is I've cut this, welded the end. I've added material to this. I've added material and essentially lengthened the door to fit the car. There's a couple of reasons for having to do this. The one reason is this wasn't a two-door car. This is a four-door car that I've converted. The measurements aren't exact. It's not precisely where a two-door would have been. And even if it was, it likely still would have needed this work. I've had some people ask me, why wouldn't I just put full quarters on it? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to it other than money. And also, why wouldn't I just have an aftermarket door? Well, I bet you that if I had an aftermarket quarter panel and an aftermarket door, that I would be doing this exact thing and adding to the door to make the gaps right, because they're not right out of the box. And as a matter of fact, this piece here, this door jamb, the whole door jamb all the way down to the bottom, is an aftermarket piece. And it didn't fit right. You can see this is the aftermarket E-coat paint that's on it. And that was sectioned in here, which I still have some metal filler to do. Still some metal work to do up there, and then I welded it all the way across. If you haven't been following this project, check back my other videos because there's a lot going on. I also put in a nice little patch on the bottom of the door here. This door is pretty good now. I haven't lined the front fender up. I'm kind of doing this backwards. Normally what you would do is you would set... No, you know what? I'm doing it right. The body of the car is not moving. So set the door to the body of the car, set the fender to the door, and go forward. That makes sense to me. Maybe other people do it differently. But what I did was then welded this all up so the gap was too tight, sprayed it with Dychem layout blue, machinist blue, scribed a line, ground it till it was close, and then filed it until the line was where I wanted it to be. And the end result is it's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. It's a lot better than trying to build the gaps out of filler. So I'll show you the other door, and then before I show you the other door, I'm kind of happy with that. That quarter panel is invented. The bottom part is an aftermarket panel. The top part is like a section of the old door. There's an aftermarket piece for the door jamb, like it's a pieced together thing, and it's actually gonna be okay. Let me show you the other side. Now the other side, I put made a skin that goes all the way across the bottom, if you can kind of tell there. And when I did that, I shortened the gap all along the rocker to make the gap what I wanted to do. Because like I said, this isn't a factory car. Now you would hit that with aftermarket panels anyway, but I especially hit it with this car not being an original car. So this radius was just a little bit different, and I had to shape the door I don't like this gap. It's a little loose here, a little tight here. So later on, I'm going to have to play with this. But there's no latch there. That's where it fits. So it's actually pretty close. You'll see that where the aftermarket door jamb, I had this problem on the other side too. The aftermarket door jamb, where it lined up when it was straight, it actually canters back just a touch from what the door is. So the gap is tighter here and looser here. So I had to adjust by welding on there and just kind of just trick your eyes. If you measured it, it's probably, you know, a 1/16 wider up here than it is down here, but who's going to measure it? So this is what I was talking about. The door fits tight on the pillar. I have some cleanup work to do on this pillar, but the door fits tight on the pillar, so I'm going to have to shave this back some and create my gap, weld it. So if you don't like that kind of thing, it's probably a good time to stop watching. Other than that, stick with me while we go look at this mess of a trunk. This trunk had a lot of work. There's like, I don't know, 10 videos on this trunk area. I almost gave up on the whole car because the car was so rotten that the center of the trunk sat higher than the quarter panels, and the quarter panels had sank to the fact that and it made it to the point where I had to jack up the quarter panels and rebuild all the structure, rebuild the wheel wells, rebuild the whole back of the car. It really is something that I should have never done. About trying to do this because it's cheaper, this isn't cheaper. The cheaper way would have been to go buy a car that's already done, but I'm doing this because it's fun. So let's have a look and see where I'm at with the back of the car. All right, I did a video, I think I did a video on making the taillights fit, because this is aftermarket, this is aftermarket, that's aftermarket, this is aftermarket, there's a brace in there that's aftermarket. I've rebuilt those wheel wells all in there on both sides, filled in the trunk floor. Yeah, it's a lot. So I still have to, the reason this hunk of crap is stuck there is because I have to seal this little loop that goes into this pin, this alignment pin. I have to figure out, well, I can just measure it, but I have to measure where that goes, cut that off of there, and weld it onto down here. I just have this latch tacked in. It actually closes pretty decent, but I'm not happy with the fit, and I'll show you why. So these things, from what I understand, and actually I've looked at a bunch of them. My buddy has a pile of these cars, and I was down at his barn looking at his cars, and they all have the same problem where they're a little tight here and they're a little loose here, and you know, they're different side to side, and some stick out and some don't, and it's just kind of a gong show. But like I mentioned, these quarters had sagged down like 1 inch, so the whole center of the car was like a banana, and I had to jack these quarters back up and restructure everything. So everything is out to whack. So this is to go with trying to make it look the way it's supposed to be is impossible. There is no supposed to be on this car. This is make it to fit the way I want it to fit. So this I'm cool with. I've got to obviously weld this up a little bit more and put some metal to metal filler there. It's like a lead replacement. It's Evercoat 889. I need to do the same here, finish welding there, clean this up. There's some of that metal to metal right there. And this gap I'm kind of cool with, but where it loosens up here, I don't like. This part is going to be fun. Look at this thing here. I can stick my finger in there. So this needs to come ahead, but there's only so much space to come ahead. So I might have to bring this ahead, and this is where you're going to cringe. Bring this ahead to where I like it to fit back here, and then shave this all back here and actually bring the trunk back. So we'll see. We'll see if I have to do that, but it's probable. And the best way that I've found to do it is with the panel on the car. So, but if I can already see if I bring this forward, it also has to go that way, because as soon as I bring it forward, it's going to touch here. So there's going to be fudging of the edges to make it look right. And guaranteed if you measure it when it's done, everything will be out to lunch. But it'll look okay because it's all going to be even and consistent because it is what it is. Little welding to do here. Have to fill that antenna hole. Finish that down there. Yeah, I'm just getting to the point where that door patch was the last patch in the car. I have no more patches to weld. Actually, we celebrated, my wife and I, that there's no more patches to weld in the car. I'll probably find something, but there isn't any right now. So now I'm refining. And then I'll get to epoxy and body fill and all those things, and we'll get lots of body fill. You can hear the heater going. It's cold outside. It's like minus 15 degrees Celsius. The first thing I need to do, open this trunk again with my trunk key and align it the best I can. Even if it's tight in some spots and loose in others, I gotta get the best overall picture of where it's gonna be, and then that's it. Then everything from there is arts and crafts and making it fit. All right, to be honest, I thought this would be a couple of days of work, getting this trunk to fit. And really, I just got rude with it. And yeah, so this gap, I thought, well, this is gonna be a pain. I don't wanna change this too much. So what I did, first thing, time that you're adjusting a panel, and I learned this the hard way, anytime that you're adjusting the panel, remove the latch. Because if you remove the latch isn't influencing what's happening. Because what happened with me is I was playing with doors on another car. I think I got caught up with this car too. You get playing and you're like, oh yeah, it looks real good. And then you open the door. Let me show you. So for example, this one, you open the latch holds it in place, and then you open it and then the door drops. But it's okay when the latch opens it in place, and then what you end up with is a door that doesn't close properly. and is a nightmare to close. Let me show you what that looks like. I have a good example. Okay, to this side. I have a really good example of what I'm trying to avoid. And I've played with this before. This door here, when you go to close it, doesn't close. To close this door, it takes a good oomph. I don't want that for that car. I'm already not there. And this, trust me, I need to go over this and fix that. But that's a thorn in my side. Let's go back to work here and we'll talk about, what is that crap? All right, back to this side. Hey, look at this. Doesn't that look like a car? If only the world knew that the fenders are just sitting on there and tie wrapped into place and the hood is just sitting on there loosely, and that it was a junk four-door. Okay, so that's why you adjust without the latch. So I've done that. Now this side, if you spend a bunch of time to try and make your gaps like that and try and line the door up like I did on the other side where it's opens and closes, then this has the latch now. Just like that. Sorry for the slam. That's what I want, right? You barely have to breathe on it, and it closes and stays even and stays flush. That's what you want. That's what I'm fighting for on this car, and then when I'll revisit the truck and do that. So what I had to do, I lined up this gap first because I thought this gap would be a pain in the ass to fix, because I like to do it on the car. I shuffled it back and forth a bunch. I still have a greater gap, so there's no latch here, nothing holding it. I have a little bit greater gap on this side than I do on this side, but this side actually looks really good. It's consistent, it's uniform. It's probably, now I'm holding it down, right, because I'm simulating it sort of latch because there's a bit of spring in the hinges. So if I hold that down, it's a pretty even gap all the way up, all the way around there. Pretty even gap here, pretty even gap here, except it gets a little wide right here. And it's pretty even all the way across the bottom. Now, what I did, and this happens with these things, is when the car is not shaped quite right and the trunk was shaped, actually this car, as a matter of fact, I know was hit on this side. But sometimes panels require a manual adjustment, like you saw me do a minute ago. I have that problem with Corvair hoods. They used to adjust them with a block of wood at the factory, from what I understand. On the other side, where this is inset from the panel, which I've seen is pretty common on these, I had to put something behind there, give it a twist. You know, you're bending the panel to fit the car. It's not the best thing in the world, but it's what has to happen. So anyways, I put some pressure with my big bar over there and gave the whole thing a twist. Might have twisted the hinges, might have twisted the deck lid. Doesn't matter, because whatever I did, it fits now. So what I need to do is, now that I'm okay with that, I can latch it in place, because the gap is okay. The gap's 3/4 of the gap is perfect. Exactly what I'm happy with. Minimal filler. I don't want, where you don't want filler, this car is going to have lots, but where I don't want filler, if I can help it, is close to the edges, because that's how it chips, right? And then you end up with a big giant piece of junk. So what I can do now is, now that I have this fitting sort of okay, I can latch it, and where my gap is a little wider than I'd like here in the corner, can't really tell, but here, it's a little wider than I'd like in the corner. I can just add a little bit in the corner of metal, blend it in, and no one will notice the difference. The only people that will know is the entire internet, because I'm sure everyone is watching my videos. I might give it another little tweak just to make sure, but because it does kind of come back a little bit, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's, yeah, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to tweak that again, put the latch back on, latch it, make sure it's where I like it, and then I'm going to do some welding around there and kind of some finishing, and that's a lot easier than I thought it would be. I've said this before in my other videos as well. Work like this, you kind of got to be in the right mood. If you're not, then you need to just walk from it, because if you're frustrated or rushing or in a hurry to do this, it's never going to go. It's just going to be a mess, and you're going to be wasting a giant pile of time. All right, I'm going to keep screwing around here, put a latch back on it, and see where we can get. Okay, let me show you where I'm at. So what I've done is I've taken 332 TIG rod, okay? And I shaped it around the edge and welded it both sides. So it gives you a hard edge, a straight edge to work from. Now, yeah, it gets a little wonky with bits of weld attached to it and stuff. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get this gap sort of even. So what I've done is I've got I don't know where it went, but I've got a feeler gauge that I've checked the door with, and I'm trying to check this with as well. So what I'll do is I'll take the car as the fixed point, and I'll move everything on the deck lid. Like I said, right or wrong, this is the way I'm doing it, and already I can see it's sort of coming together. So I've added material, like I said, 3/32 to the edge. On this corner here, I added another little bit of weld, and then I've smoothed it both sides so it's flat like this. Now my next step is that I've got to spray that deck lid with Dychem machinist layout. Look, you can see how much here. That's how much I've added to it. Just this little bit. So when I checked it with my feeler gauge, I liked how that was. There it is. This is 4 mil. I don't know what it is in imperial, but my vernier that I measured it with was said 4 mil. So when I look here, I'm happy with like how that is. It gets a little tight here, and that won't go in. So I'm going to take some material off of the deck lid, or off of here, probably off the deck lid, because I just said the car was going to be the fixed point. So tight. So I'm going to have to, I want it, the part where I welded, I want to be tight, because this is like body filler in the sense that or drywall mud or anything else, in the sense where I'm going to put a ton on, and it's all going to come off and end up on the floor. So what I want is, see, that's perfect right there. What I want is I want this to be able to go in all the way around. You can see it's pretty good right there already. Now the deck lid moves a little bit. It's not a dead exact science, but so it's a little tight right here. It goes in pretty easy right there. That's pretty good. And then it tightens up again. And then when I get over to here, it's perfect. And it gets a little tight, little tight. And then it opens up in the corner, and vertical is good. A little tight in that same spot there, that same seam. But this is all good, and I've already decided that I'm okay with that. So what I'm gonna do is, likely all my work is gonna be from about here down. I'm probably not gonna screw with, because this is good here, and that's good there. So I'm gonna screw with, from lack of a better term, I'm gonna work from here down and around this whole deck lid. And it'll take a couple of courses of welding and filing and welding and filing and welding and filing. And yes, filing, not grinding. So what I'll do is I'll scribe the line, and if I've got a lot of meat to take off, like if I have greater than the 1/16 of an inch to take off, I'll get it close to the line with my 36 grit on the roll-lock wheel. But to get to the line, I will take that there with the file. So where this transition is, I'm going to have to hit that with the 36 grit just to get it, feather it out, because it's a lot of filing if I don't. In the end, what I end up with is a nice uniform gap like that fits well, that everything is good, and I'm happy. So it also, it really ties the car together and makes it look like a car when everything starts fitting properly. Okay, this is Dychem layout fluid. It's machinist blue. No, I'm not sponsored. I'm not sponsored by anybody. It's machinist blue. It's for laying out parts that you're making and for machining. So you could use, lots of people will do a Sharpie and just scratch on a Sharpie on there, but I have this stuff and I know it exists. So I'm just going to go all the way around the edge up to where I think it ought to be. It dries really fast. And, you know, before I do any body work for paint work or whatever, obviously I'm going to have acetone, not acetone, I don't know, lacquer thinner or something to wipe the whole body down. Prep wash. So this also shows highs and lows like a guide coat would for body work. I used it when I was trying to get the side of the car straight. And it helped a lot. This car isn't precise enough for me to really get, and I'm not good enough to get the car perfectly straight with this stuff. But that's what a lot of the fancy hot rod builders do. They will use it to get the highs and lows and make their cars perfect. So I'm going to close that. It's probably already dry, and then what I've got to do is I'll get my vernier caliper and I'll scribe a line all the way around. Okay, so that was most of a day to get this right. My hat always is on funny, but it's a funny hat, so I guess it's okay to be on funny. Anyways, let me show you where I got. I'm pretty happy with it. I think from this point, I can take it with the metal to metal filler, and I've got to still do some more welding, and I still have to do that trunk guide, but I can do that now because the trunk without the guide is closing fine. It's going to change a little bit when there's substrate on there, like filler and primer and paint. I'm going to have to adjust it all again. And then once I get weather strips in, but the closer I get it in metal, the easier my life will be later. Mostly because I'm a lot more comfortable working with metal and have done a lot more metal work than I ever have with filler and stuff. So I guess that's going to be a learning curve. But anyways, let me show you what I've got. Okay, I've got a little bit of welding to do here. I put a relief cut in there and tapped that over to try and get that to where I want it to be. That's all good. It's all nice and even there. See, you can see, like this is, I added a pile of metal to there and you can't really tell because it's welded fully across. and then sand it out. And all I did was sand it with, I don't know, 80 grit or something. But like, there's no, I don't know why people have such a problem with this. It doesn't make sense to me. This is the only way I see to make door and trunk gaps correct, other than just putting filler on the edges and building it up with filler, which isn't my idea of, I don't know, I guess it's good. I've just seen too many older cars that have chipped around the edges. So, you know, this will have some filler up to the edges and stuff. It's just, now it'll be minimal. Like, I'm not trying to build, that was, you know, 3/32 of an inch around that radius there that I added. I wouldn't want to do that in filler. I don't think that's, not on the edge. Anyways, it's going to have a skim, like where this transition is, there will be a little skim. Just little bits, but I'll use that, you know, this metal to metal stuff that's got that metal in it. I also cleaned out all the, that was the paint, I cleaned all the paint out of the jam and cleaned all the paint off here. Whenever you can, don't blow this thing off with an air gun, because it just goes everywhere. It's bad enough that there's dust all over the shop, but use a vacuum whenever you can. And Kyle taught me that my vacuum, my friend Kyle taught me that my vacuum attaches to my sander. So that'll be good for when it's time to rough in body fill. So I'm pretty happy with how this is sitting now. It all looks pretty good. The gap's even all the way around here. It's as good as a Trifive would be, I guess. You know, probably better than a stock one would be, but you know, like, will this trunk fit on another Trifive? No, not at this point, because I just added, you know, 3/32 or some sort of amount of inches to the edge. So, will the door fit another Trifive? No, probably not, because I've added some to it as well. You'd have to grind it back down, or maybe that car would have a bigger gap and you'd have to open it up. So who knows? But do I care? No, not really. I'm just trying to make this car work. And oh, and I got rid of this here. Like, remember I could stick my finger in there? I can't stick my finger in there now. Obviously that's going to need a little bit of metal to metal filler over that edge, because that's the seam where that panel was, and that was all leaded originally. Also, I could get my finger in there, and there's a little difference. There's like a little raised, like maybe 1/8 of an inch, but that probably will get some filler in there, some fiberglass stuff or something, some short strand fiberglass, just to try and make that as nice and even as possible. But also I have to keep in mind that this isn't the final fit on this thing. This is roughing it in, believe it or not, because this has to come off again for me to paint everything, to prime everything. It's going to be on and off about 100 times. So what I'll do is I'll drill a guide hole. Now that I know where I like it, in each hinge I'll drill a guide hole and put a screw in on each side, so that way it'll be easier to line it up when I go to put it back on. Well, I'm happy with the result. This car's coming together. It's still going to be a long time coming, but I'm working on it, and I'm working on it steady. So that's all you can do. Thanks for watching. Check out all my other videos on this project. Feel free to let me know what you think. I understand everyone does it differently, and there's no right or wrong way as long as it gets done. So keep that in mind and stay positive, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.